So obviously physical attractiveness is important. And I actually argue women care far more about looks than men do.
I argue against.
Well, for example,
one night stand perspective, I agree with you on.
Here's my example. Like, here's my argument for this. So, of the things that are in women's control and in that are out of women's control and out of men's control when it comes to physical appearance, women care about far more metrics that are totally out of men's control. Like, they have no control over it. For example, height. Men can't control their height. A lot of women care about height. If the guy's balding, a lot of women would prefer to date a guy with a full head of hair, certainly if they're younger, but some guys start balding in their early 20s, even in their teens. Penis size, out of a man's control, a lot of women care about that. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that women care about when it comes to looks that are totally out of dudes' control. Yeah. Whereas for men,
you can actually get surgery now, though, to increase your height.
I don't
agree
count
with
surgery.
that.
Like people be getting surgery to increase their height.
I don't think men should be doing that shit.
Regardless, though, I still think men care more about appearance.
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
So.
Like, no, you can't control your height. If you're balding, you're balding. Like, you can't do anything about it. But I would say women care more about things that aren't physical.
How tall are you?
And I think guys do. I am 5 foot.
Do you have a bare minimum height?
No.
You'll date a guy who's 5'1"?
My last boyfriend was, I think, like, on the shorter side.
Me too,
and I didn't care. And I thought...
That's fine. But I would argue most women prefer a guy who's like 6 feet, 5'10".
My only preference is that he's taller than me, but that's not really hard for me because I'm short.
Sure, but you wouldn't date a guy who's shorter than you, it sounds like. Granted, most men are probably taller than you. So.
But I don't have a set height.
Okay. I would argue, though, most women prefer taller guys. In fact, they very much typically
I think guys
on dating.
prefer shorter girls.
Yeah.
I don't think the difference is, though, between men and women is height typically is never going to be a deal breaker for a guy.
I
think
they might have a preference. They might have a preference.
I think a lot of guys have that preference, and I think a lot of guys hate that idea of a woman being taller than them.
Yeah.
No, I disagree.
And I've also seen a lot on social media, tall girls coming out talking about that, and it's.
I mean, I would argue that men not wanting to date a taller woman, that's probably more so because they know that taller women don't want to date shorter guys.
Well, I guess you could say it goes.
So they've
ways,
had experiences.
Evenly. I think it evenly goes.
I've had experiences
both
where I've for some magical reason, if the girl, I'm 6'1", mind you, so I'll encounter a girl who's 6'2", 6'3". Shit, even a girl who's 6 feet, she's like, Brian, I'd rather a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". So I think it. Granted, there are probably guys out there that are probably insecure about their height, and that can manifest itself negatively in a relationship. But I would argue typically that's going to fall on the woman. The woman's going to have an issue with it, therefore it's going to be it's just going to be a problem on her end. So
okay.
Yeah, the hardest part for me if I'm dating a girl over 6 foot, because I used to be 6'3", love to swing dance, still enjoy swing dancing in a wheelchair, but if I go for a dip and she's over 6, it's really hard for me to get my hand all the way on her head. So that's my biggest issue there. But yeah, I think that one thing, when we're talking about if girls like guys based on their looks or not, I think that in the sexual marketplace, and when I say that, I'm talking about the dating marketplace and everything. I think that it really comes down to a lot of women are judged by basically how far they fall off the top of the mountain, which basically is saying that and this kind of what we were talking about, guys prefer girls that are younger and have been with less guys for whatever reason. I think it's just kind of genetically designed in us. We can rip on why that is, but I think there's some valid reasons for it. And this is why girls who are normally in their young 20s or mid 20s are way more attractive than women who are in their 40s. Whereas women will date older guys all the time. I mean, it happens all the time. Guys are judged by how much they climb the mountain. When a guy is 19 years old, he is the least attractive to the majority of women. But if a guy is at 33 years old, he has built a business empire. He is solidly built physically. He has got a solid head on his shoulders. He had to build those things. Whereas a woman's normally born with the attributes that make her the greatest, aside from personality that has to be developed and all those things. And so I think guys are judged when girls are thinking about who they want to marry by how far they climb up that mountain. And they get so caught up when they're in their young 20s and they're getting gassed up by everybody, but just being chasing after, like, I want the hottest guy in the entire world. But then when it comes time to get married, they're like, yeah, that guy was like a jock in high school, or he played college football, but now, you know, he's just, you know, does like a something like, you know, not a, he hasn't built himself. Now he's got like a drug addiction and a porn addiction. Those aren't the people you want to marry. You want the guy who has a solid faith built and wants to create a family and provide and protect them. Yeah,
Those are hard to find, though.
it is. I think girls are really interested in those kind of qualities more so than what they're physically attracted to, and that's where they get so fucked up when they're super young.
Absolutely.
They are just chasing like the hottest guy they can find for clout or for whatever, because they want to look good on an Instagram picture, but it's just not going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of girls that are seeking long-term commitment aren't just chasing after looks.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's bigger
I
things,
also
and I
feel
think
like-
people are aware of that.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I also feel like guys that are typically physically more attractive, like when you look at their Instagram, you're like, yeah, this guy's, they can also be low-key gay at the same time. Like they care as much about like themselves, you know what I mean? Like
And to be the manly man that you would never think.
yeah, like low-key a little too obsessed with themselves, and then you
Yeah.
find out
I
that
need
like
perfect loafers and I can't wear
Like,
socks.
I honestly prefer a guy that like isn't. I don't know why. I kind of like a guy who's like a little bit ugly,
Yeah.
low
Yeah.
key, just
Ugly.
a little bit, just a little bit.
yeah.
And I was at a
Okay.
restaurant the other day, and I thought this server was like really hot, and he was gay. So
Oh.
Rip.
The gay guys be really
RIPs in the
attractive.
chat
Ooh.
for her.
It's
Okay.
the water, man. They're turning the frogs
they be
gay,
having their
and it's now
eyebrows
starting to
done
make the
all
humans
good.
gay. It's ridiculous.
They having the ear piercing.
The water is turning the frogs gay, and now it's turning us gay.
Oh
Just-
shit.
It's terrible.
Okay, there you have it.
We're all gay.
Here,